Yeah, no, it does both at the same
And then
time.
I appear.
Yeah, go ahead.
Everybody ready? Good. As Alexa said, my name is Toussaint Egan. I am a communications and English major, journalism, media studies, creative writing. And for today, I'm going to be discussing the topic of the apocalypse, and specifically towards the 2012 phenomenon. And the title of my paper is Eschatological Infatuations, a Fatalist Attraction to the Apocalypse. First off, I'm going to just lay out what exactly are eschatological infatuations. For anyone who doesn't know what eschatology is, tongue twister, the Oxford Dictionary definition of eschatology is the department of theological science concerned with the last four things: death, judgment, heaven, or hell. Or, in a more generalized term, a part of theology, philosophy, and futurology concerned with what are believed to be the final events of history, the ultimate destiny of humanity, commonly referred to as the end of the world or the world to come. Out of a personal desire for a definition to encompass and to communicate the millennial trends and cultural patterns of behavior and thought that gravitate around the mention of the apocalypse, I decided to call them eschatological infatuations. The primary goal of my presentation is to lay out and analyze these cultural patterns of thought and discourse surrounding the underworld through a compare and contrast of different media depictions of world-ending events, add some clarity to the misconceptions and misinformation surrounding the 2012 phenomena, and attempt to strike upon the answer to the question of why these eschatological infatuations even exist, and why they permeate so prolifically for our common consciousness, and what they mean for us as our shared experience as human beings. Now, again, I'm not a history major, nor am I an aspiring theologian or eschatologian, and I'm really just a guy with a diverse range of interests and concerns, two of them which being my own continued existence and sustainability of the human race. I wouldn't call it a stretch of the imagination to say that on some basic human level, those topics compel, in some part, or concern those who are here, as that'll lead to the questions like, why are you here? It's like, my point being is not my intention to talk verbatim at length, quoting history and scripture, though I will attempt some anecdotal clips for the sake of context. My primary examples here are those of media and literature, specifically that of science fiction. And why did I choose science fiction? Because other than being used to portray the many triumphs and failings of the human condition within the framework of a plausible, not too distant, or implausibly far-flung future, I personally believe that no other genre caters to our fatalistic attraction to the apocalypse by portraying such otherwise unfathomable devastation in so neatly a compressed space of time and narrative. So, to jump in, without any further exposition, let's talk millennial trends of apocalyptic infatuation in reference to the 2012 phenomenon. Now, what exactly is all this 2012 hubbub supposed to be about? Some of you may be wondering, some of you may have actually heard about, others of you may never have heard about it. There are so many conflicting predictions among so many different theorists and practitioners of amateur eschatology that it's hard to discern what, if anything, is supposed to occur on December 21st, 2012, if we can even agree on that date. These theories, by and large, originate largely from only a cursory understanding of the mind and civilization and the calendar by which they measured their epochs of cultural upheaval. They were known for being very adept sky watchers, and they used a cyclical calendar in order to measure the times of when there's going to be a renewal phase, or what they're actually going to do for planting. Just like we do, only theirs move deliberately in cycles. One theory regarding 2012 reports that there will be, for whatever reason, a spontaneous reversal of the Earth's polar magnetic fields that causes massive seismic shifts and meteorologic chaos on a scale of biblical proportions, a theory which is, by and large, popularized by such films as Roland Emmerich's conveniently named 2012 and the John O'Neill's 2003 film, The Core, starring Aaron Eckhart. Another dominant theory is that the Earth will fall directly within a collision path with an extraspatial planet known as Nibiru, or Planet X. And the third alludes that the Earth will somehow be swallowed into a massive black hole, either by some inadvertent mistake of a large hadron collider in Switzerland or some other spurious pseudo-scientific exaggeration. Plus the usual assortment of ascension myths puzzled and pieced together from overly complicated calculations and other arbitrary and coincidental inferences of meaning. Much of the same mystique of passive fear and unfounded hysteria surrounding the 2012 phenomena is comparable to that of the Y2K hysteria that dominated the turn of the century. That because of a lack of foresight on part of some major software developers, our technology would simultaneously fail or become inoperable, plunging everyone into a technological dark age. The question of our end is inextricably tied to the question of our beginning, which in itself is a product of our idea of existence through the perception lens of mortality. This perception leads to the basic inferences that inform our daily lives and routine. For every sunrise, there is a sunset. For every opening night, there is a curtain call. For every beginning, an end, or conclusion, that though not necessarily a resolution, as reality is decidedly divergent from the careful pacing and nuances of drama. But there exists this fundamental craving for dramatization, to relate and punctuate the events of human experience for all their petty faults and quiet triumphs. This desire can, at times, inadvertently lead to a disingenuous depiction of events and threats contrary to their reality. Becoming preoccupied and possessed with the punctuation of a sentence more so than the quality or merit of the actual sentence, I feel, does more to discredit it as a whole when we try to end things off instead of letting it stand on its own as a testament, or does it even have to end in the first place? Stopping myself to reiterate, I'm not here to talk about dramatic theory or film precisely, but rather to decipher and deliberate how these artifacts of drama inform the shape and dialogue of public consciousness and create these eschatological infatuations for good and for ill ends. In his essay, Apocalypse Then, Benefits of the Bomb in 50s Science Fiction Films, Robert Torrey describes the cultural impetus that fueled one of the most enduring religious motifs in mid-50s era science fiction, the imminence of the apocalypse. He goes on to say, the demonstrations in 1944 of the devastating potential of atomic armory and the augmentation of international tension produced by Soviet nuclear testing reinforced the motif of science fiction films hearkening and deploring the world-threatening capacities unleashed by modern science. In such films, we often discover an element of almost impatient desire for what such apocalypticism has always imagined, the benefits to be obtained by massive destruction. I interpret this impatience into two categories, the presence of immediate fear or passive fear. But before I go on to describe the distinctions between the two, I want to show two clips from two different films that reference to what I'm talking about. The first clip is from a 1950 film called The Day the Earth Stood Still. It's a classic. And the other is from the aforementioned film, The Core, 2003.